If you struggle with maybe angry outbursts or intense emotions, crying fits, it may be related to some liver stagnation. So let's talk about that. I'm Michelle. I'm a functional nutrition practitioner, a clinical herbalist, and I want to share with you how, from an herbalist perspective, often intense emotions, anger, grief, any kind of emotion, even joy that is out of balance is often considered to be related to poor liver function. And this dates all the way back to Greek medicine when the Greeks would describe a type of melancholia, which was a state in which a person had an excess of bile, which was one of the four humors of the body, or these substances basically that were a part of health and how people stayed healthy and was by keeping these different humors in balance. And so, too much bile, which is related to liver function, was that condition known as melancholia. And it would lead to symptoms of things like irritability or depression with anxiety, or again, those angry thoughts or angry outbursts, as well as more physical symptoms like insomnia, maybe poor digestion, nausea, gas, bloating. All of these different symptoms could be related to what we might even call that liver-based depression. And really, modern research definitely backs this up. We know now that this influx of toxins and inability to really move toxins out of the system creates inflammation, and that can impact our detoxification pathways, all over the pathways in the body, right? And so, as we support the liver, often we'll find that some of these emotional problems that we hold on to can be released as well. And this isn't just a Greek medicine view as well. In TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, the liver is also related to intense emotions. And specifically, joy is the emotion that is most related to the liver. But it is considered that any kind of imbalance with our emotions, again, anger, depression, even too much joy, right? If we're in kind of a mania type of state, as someone who, for example, has bipolar disorder might experience, are all thought to be related to the health and function of the liver. And so we know that by supporting the liver, often we can start to see a shift of releasing emotions. And this really makes sense to me because when you think about the job of the liver to help the body detox, right, to move out any kind of toxins or wastes that are kind of fueling the system, kind of clogging up the system, if you will, then we know that really the idea of the liver is about transformation, right? And again, I like to think of it as just taking out the trash. If we have things that are kind of gunking up our system, and we're not able to fully process things, and not just on a physical level, but on an emotional level, and even just an experiential level of life, right? If we aren't able to process and transform the experiences of life into something positive, something we can take away and leave the unhelpful parts of those experiences behind, we can get stuck in our emotions. So I have seen that working with herbs to support the liver actually can really shift some emotional patterns that can be stuck in the body as well. Again, we're talking about this process of transformation, of opening things up and moving things through and not getting stuck in these patterns, whether it's emotional patterns or even on that physical level. Another look at traditional medicine from the Ayurvedic perspective is this idea that if things aren't moving through appropriately, right, we're not detoxing life experiences or the foods that we eat, this toxic sludge begins to build up in the body, and it's called ama in Ayurvedic medicine. And it's kind of like this white gunky substance, right? If we have a lot of phlegm, for instance, excuse me, I feel a little bit in my throat right now. And that can actually be a sign of this toxic buildup, this ama that's building up in our system. And again, it's not just a physical thing. There is this emotional and psychological aspect to our ability to move through and transform life and experiences. But amazingly, herbs can really help with being able to open up in these detox pathways on both a physical and an emotional level. So, when I think about supporting detoxification, moving through strong emotions, always thinking about supporting the liver as one of the foundations of detoxification. But it's not the only one, but it is the one we're going to talk about today for just a few minutes because I want to share with you some of the best herbs for helping with supporting detoxification and also that I found help really with releasing stored emotions and maybe what we could call those toxic emotions that can build up and keep us stuck and unable to move forward. So if we think about how do we open up these pathways? How do we allow the body to transform experiences? We want to start by supporting the liver. And I think about milk thistle, of course, one of our favorite herbs for supporting the liver. But also, I have found it to be really profound in helping to open up and release stored emotions. I have a client I was working with recently who we're actually working on well, liver health, but also some skin issues that have been showing up for her for several years. And so we're doing some gentle detox right now. And as she's been taking a formula with some milk thistle, she actually got back to me and told me that she was noticing anger coming up, right? Some stored anger that was showing up in her. And, she was just kind of feeling that, moving through that. And it didn't surprise me because I knew that milk thistle was one of the herbs that she was working with in her formula. And that is one of the amazing things about that herb. It can really help to kind of open up and release stored emotions, although we don't always think of it in that way. So be aware of that as you're working to support your ability to detox well, that you might start to notice some of these stored emotions, grief, anger, overwhelm, sadness, whatever you want to call these emotions, they can often show up when we start working with herbs. Another herb that I think of when it comes to releasing stored emotions based in a sluggish liver is St. John's wort. If you know anything about St. John's wort, you might think of it as the depression herb, right? It's known for its ability to help with low serotonin levels. And a lot of people find it helps with kind of the seasonal affective disorder type of depression. But it's a really wonderful herb for supporting the liver as well. In fact, it's so good at upregulating our detoxification pathways, phase one and two, that it actually can impact the metabolism of certain pharmaceutical medications. So it is one herb that I use caution with if I'm using, if I'm working with a client who has any kind of medications they're using, I always double check that it doesn't interact with those liver pathways that are impacted by St. John's wort because it really will help to regulate and help enhance our detoxification. But just in that same sense, we see how it's working on this emotional level to help bring balance back into the mind and body. So it really is an amazing herb for working with what we might call that hepatic depression or liver based depression that's been recognized for centuries in traditional Chinese medicine and other herbal traditions. I want to talk about a couple more before we wrap up. One that comes to mind as well is schisandra. And I want to mention schisandra because it is an adaptogen, and adaptogens are wonderful helping to regulate our HPA axis response to stress, right? So, this is a calming adaptogen. It just kind of comes in and helps us have more capacity in our nervous system and in our body to handle stressors, which is a really lovely thing. But it's also really lovely for supporting the liver as well. And it acts as an antioxidant. It can help boost liver glutathione levels, which is kind of that master antioxidant that the body creates to help the liver support the toxic load on the body as it is helping to move those toxins out of the system. So Schisandra is really wonderful. A traditional combination in Chinese medicine is Schisandra and goji berry, and it's a really lovely combination for boosting antioxidant levels. It's known as kind of an anti-aging formula. I really love it, and so that's a nice combination. But Schisandra, even in other formulations, really lovely for supporting mood, energy, stress, and enhancing liver function. And then I can't really wrap this up without talking about some of our bitter herbs like motherwort, because our bitter herbs, as you might know, are also nervines, right? They often have an affinity for the nervous system, helping to regulate our ability to stay within our capacity for stress and stay out of overwhelm. And that's why I love these bitter nervines like motherwort. You might think of motherwort if you know anything about motherwort and its affinity for the heart, right? So it's an herb that has been used to help those who maybe need a little more courage. Maybe that anxiety is coming from a bit of fear at overcoming some obstacle in life. But yet we know because motherwort is a bitter herb, it also has an affinity for the liver and really supports the liver. In fact, there's a Chinese species of motherwort that is used in traditional Chinese medicine to treat what are called liver fire rising patterns. So maybe someone with kind of a heat pattern of headache or red, painful eyes, or we would maybe even consider those a tense emotional outburst, like an outburst of anger as a type of liver fire rising pattern as well. And so think about motherwort and its energetic patterns, right? It's a very cooling, bitter herb. So that affinity for the nervous system and for the liver. And in that way, we're supporting both the physical and the emotional level of healing. And motherwort is really lovely for so many women because of that reason. So, as we release these toxins, we open up our drainage pathways, we support the liver, we are reducing inflammation, we are enhancing our ability to process life's experiences more fully and to move through experiences, good and bad, in a healthy way. So, if you are noticing any of these patterns showing up with your mood or energy, feeling kind of stuck in chronic patterns, then think about these herbs that support and enhance liver detoxification, as well as helping to release stored emotions, because they are really beautiful at doing that. And I want to talk next week about detoxing even more and about how to know if you are detoxing well or not. So stick around. We'll be back next week and we'll chat about that. In the meantime, you'll find some links below to grab some free guides, a free masterclass. I'd love to have you join me if you're interested in learning more about how to use herbs to support your mood and energy and hormone balance from a traditional medicine perspective that's also rooted in a functional nutrition approach. I'll see you next week.